Welcome to Grace in the Grind, where we're here to tell the story behind the story of some of the most successful entrepreneurs. And we're going to ask questions like, how did you keep going? And today, I have a very special guest with me, Anita Morin. Did I say that? Or Morin? Did I say that correctly? Did we go?
Yeah.
All right, good. Because if you guys have been listening to the show, I typically try to say the names correctly, but I don't always succeed. However, there's sometimes we do get it. With that being said, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm really excited about this.
So take this next 60 to 90 seconds and just let us know what you do and who you are.
Sure. My name is Anita. I own FDS Creatives. I'm a video marketing and social media strategist. And what most people know about me is that I know way too much about YouTube. But my clients use video marketing across multiple different platforms to bring in more income and more impact. And this summer, I'll be celebrating 8 years in business, and I really love what I get to do.
Oh, wow. 8 years. So this is going to
Mhm.
be some really good conversation because the rate of quitting is pretty high within the first couple of years. So
Yeah.
I think at some point we're going to get into the longevity of this. To start
Yeah.
out, you had mentioned in the pre-show, to the listener, we oftentimes have a pre-show here. We just chat it for a minute or two. You said you're a homeschooling mom.
I am.
So talk about that a little bit. Let's get into some of that.
Yeah. I think it's important to say that I never planned to homeschool. And one of the things that I really noticed, I started my business when my oldest was 6 months old. And as he got older, I saw that he had needs that I really wanted to be able to have the freedom to help him with. And that ended up resulting in us homeschooling, which has been one of the most amazing things for our family and for my children. But it's my business that really allows me to make that happen. And I have three children, ages 8, 4, and 1. And it's a full schedule, but it is truly a gift to be able to be home with them and to build relationships with them throughout the day.
So 8, 4, and 1, and you're a business owner. All right. So
Yeah.
this is where we're going to dive in because so you don't just have children, like you have small children.
Yeah, I think the term that most people use for this age group is that you're, quote, "in the thick of it." I don't know where they got that, but yeah, yes.
I like that. I'm going to use that in the future. Now, I guess I'm no longer in the thick of it. My kids are teenagers, but
Yeah,
I remember the 1 and the 5 because they're 4 and 5 years apart. So
yeah,
how is it that you have such young children? Now, obviously, with one being 8, you started your business around the time you had your first one.
yeah,
And now 4 years later and all this stuff. So walk us through some of that because 2
sure.
small kids, a business, it sounds challenging.
Yes. For those who don't know, I'm actually a trained physician assistant. And when I went into labor with my first child, I was working in neurosurgery. I thought for sure I would be working in medicine for my whole life. I loved taking care of patients. But then they handed me that baby and I held him for the first time. And it was like everything changed. And I really wanted a way to stay home. But at the time, I didn't know that there were actually real ways that you can make money from home that was sustainable and consistent and could really like help with your family. And I'd like to say I became an unexpected entrepreneur. I stumbled into the online space 8 years ago, working as a virtual assistant because I didn't know what I didn't know. And for a year, I helped in all kinds of different businesses, doing anything anybody would let me do. And I found that what I was really good at was pulling key parts out of someone's message and knowing what to amplify within their brand, and then leveraging video to help them make more money. And so now I've just built programs, systems, offers around doing that. And I've gotten to work with hundreds of business owners all over the world. But with the kids, I every 90 days relook at the goals I have in my business and what my children need from me in that 90-day period. And I structure my business around their needs and what I want my life to look like. Because the truth is, if you don't plan ahead, it's easy for your time to just get eaten up with all kinds of tasks and care needs and various things. But by holding that like bigger vision, I'm really able to see, hey, the steps I'm taking today, the work I'm putting in today is going to carry me to what it is that I want 3, 6, and 9 months, a year from now, both in my home and in my business.
So there's amazing stories. So I'm still trying to wrap my head around it because you're like, yeah, I'm a physician assistant as in the neurology and neuro, and now suddenly I'm a VA. Wait, what? The majors jump in the maybe not. Yeah, it's a huge jump.
Yeah.
How did you deal with the emotion of that? Because here you are
Yeah.
higher in the food chain of medical. You put all this schooling in, the typical probably hundreds of thousands of dollars in medical debt, and
Yeah.
now you're a VA, which VA is a great thing, but when you're coming from a
Mm.
physician assistant to a VA, make that
Yeah.
make sense for me.
Sure. We'll just say it really was a leap of faith. And I really had prayed for a way to stay home. And I had someone share with me that there was this online business world and that it was legitimate. It wasn't a scam. People really did make money. And if you really had profitable skills that you could help people with. And at the time, I didn't know I had any skills. What was funny is I didn't know people really cared about YouTube or that being a business asset. It wasn't until a client who had hired me to be a VA said, "Hey, do you know anything about YouTube?" That really led me to share that I had run a successful YouTube channel in college, and that was part of how I paid for my undergraduate degree, was really leveraging video. So when she asked, and then I started helping her and we started getting more views on her videos, it really led to a lot of different opportunities, as well as being referred to help others because now, it was known, hey, she really knows how to do this. So, needless to say, I didn't stay a virtual assistant very
Right.
long. But yeah, and then for me, and I guess mentally, it was really knowing like my identity is not in my career and whatever paycheck I was bringing home. My identity really needed to be in what it was that I valued and cared about. And so knowing that ultimately what's most important to me is that my family really is best taken care of.
Right.
And for them, they needed me to not be gone 50 hours a week taking call, doing the things that were required in the job I had. I just made a new way.
I love that. So one of the things I did write down, which I'm so glad you put down, because I'm for the listener, you may or may not know I'm an active listener. So I take notes based on what we're saying and we follow flows of conversation. So a little behind the scenes little snippet for you listeners. And I wrote down identity crisis and I put a question mark. And you really
Yes.
hit that. So walk us through the process of how did you get to such a solid, like, this is who I am? Because we're in a world that where people struggle with this in incredible ways.
Yeah. Honestly, I think my faith plays a big part in that because for me, my story really comes down to I prayed for a way to stay home and then an opportunity arose and I just literally took the next step and prayed, took the next step and prayed. And so it was really just like a journey of trust for me and
Right.
not just trusting what other people told me, but just the next right step. So over the last 8 years, I've built a lot of self-trust, and a lot of trust in God.
I love that. And when you say the next right step, I think of Frozen 2 when Anna's just take the next right step. That song pops in my head. You ever hear that? It's just the connection. It's just so cool. So, did you ever deal with the fact that the next right step, you ever feel like it was the wrong step at first before it became the right step?
Oh, definitely. I'll say originally I thought, "Hey, I'll grow my business and then it'll allow me to work part-time. I'll send my kids to school." And over time, it became obvious that working part-time and then running a business, like, was one, took a lot of time, and then two, it just became evident, "Hey, like, I really wanna keep my kids home." So, I was still working in medicine up until 2020, and I found out I was pregnant literally the day the world shut down with my now second son. And that was the first time that I saw that my medical career wasn't as stable as I thought it was because I was newly pregnant, I was furloughed because they didn't know how this new virus was going to affect pregnancy. So they were
Mm.
talking about seeing patients outside and hey, go home until we figure it out. And thankfully I had a business at that time because it was that catalyst that really led me to go all in. I created like 1,000 videos in 2020. My business blew up and that grew me to a
Wow.
multiple six-figure business. And yeah, and then when they wanted me to come back, I was, obviously in a place where I was able to respectfully choose my business.
Yeah, absolutely. If I'm making six figures and I only have to work a few hours a week versus 50 hours a week, I'm like, we're going to choose the less of the hours. Yeah, I get to choose that. I love that. So
Yeah,
this brings up so many different lines of questioning for me. So I'm sitting here
sure.
like, which one to go with? So the first one I think I'm going to go with here is let's talk about the trust. Because the
Mhm.
way we talk about trust, now I'm a person of faith and my audience is generally people of faith, Christians and
Okay.
stuff. And so, like, trust is a hard thing to come by, and you speak
Yeah.
of it as if it's just so natural to you, right?
I think I've just had a lot of opportunities to learn trust. Like my whole life is just like one new chapter book of learning trust over and over again. And I'll just tell you the thing I tell myself over and over again, and I tell my children, like what their job in life is just to ask what God wants from you and be brave enough to
Right.
do it. And so I'm always praying and just saying, Lord, I believe, but help my unbelief. Help me in the
Love
places
that.
where I don't know, but I'm trusting you that you can do more than I ask or imagine. And I've just seen that be true over and over again.
I love that. So then it comes in, okay, so you're working on trust. Every opportunity is
Yeah,
a new way to say, "Okay, Lord, I trust you."
sure.
One of the things we say in our household is whatever God wants, God gets. That's just a thing we've
Yeah.
been doing since I became a Christian. How did you notice? So, Lord, guide me, and I'm just going
Hmm.
to trust you, that kind of thing. Proverbs 3, 5, and 6. How did you know which path? Say, like, multiple things maybe open, things that seem like the right way, but not the right way. Like, how did you get to the point where you're like, okay, this is the step? Like, I want to hear that process.
Yeah, I think so. When I was working as a virtual assistant, I was really taking it opportunities that presented, just like where did I see I could help and making offers based on what I thought I could actually do. I'm someone who's very resourceful. As a physician assistant, you learn that you don't have to know all the answers. You got to know how to find them. Very little. I was like, all right, if I can figure out how to do it, I would be honest with people. Even my first client, I remember she asked me to manage data in Airtable. I didn't even know what Airtable was, but I honestly told her, I don't know what Airtable is, but I do know how to figure things out. Will you give me 30 minutes? Let me see if I can do it. And she did. Okay. And I did figure it out. But a lot of it was just like learning tasks from the things that I was being asked to do. But then at the same time, there was this real drive and this heart to build a business that was bigger, that could really continue to help more people. I cared so much about being able to serve and not only my family, but others. I was learning so much about business and marketing, seeing so many ways I could help people, seeing so many ways that often they're investing in things, hoping for help, and then not getting the help that they
Right.
desired. And so I just think I really wrestled with that. And I was looking at the online space in 2019, watching the analytics of all the different platforms my clients were on. Instagram and Facebook, TikTok was just starting to come out. And I just was really clear in my mind based on what I was seeing that video was going to take over. And not just like it was optional. Facebook Live, when it first came out, you could do it. This was like, no, like you actually, like, video is going to take over every platform. And I started saying that in 2019. And I just started saying, hey, what are the ways that you're struggling to get on video, and let me help you. And Jim, people came up with all kinds of things. They came up with fear of being on camera, knowing how to hold it, knowing what to wear, knowing what to say, knowing how to use the video to actually go to their offers. And so 2019, 2020, and 2021, I really worked on figuring out how to serve in those different areas. And then I really had a heart for the people who were video felt too far. Video felt like there's no way I can press record, and it's not because I don't know where the record button is. And they had some reason. And I spent 2022 and 2023 really helping the people who were afraid to get on camera, really shift some of the things that needed to happen so that they could do it. And then really in these last couple of years, not only am I helping people know what to say, know where to show up, knowing how to get on camera, but then on top of that, now I'm like consulting with companies and their teams, teaching their teams how to implement my systems so that they can really help business owners get on video and grow their business.
So I do want to get into a little bit more of that line of thinking because the skill set versus the mindset and the
Yeah.
balance of that. But before we get into that, What were some of the challenges? How did you not quit? Because I obviously, with any business, ups and downs all over the
Yeah.
places. How did you just not throw the towel in during this whole process between when you started getting into this VA, started your business to now? Walk me through some of that.
Yeah, I think for me, there's moments obviously where you're like, "What in the world am I doing? And can I continue to do this?" But every time I hit one of those moments, I really pause and identify, is this just a circumstance that is challenging that I'm going to learn something from, or is this really God asking me to stop? And so I just pause and keep praying, because when I can work from conviction that this is what God has asked me to do, like that, then the circumstances, I don't want to say they're irrelevant, but they are just lessons to learn to continue to move forward. And obviously for all of us business owners, there is a thought we have to have that, like, we might not be in business for 50 years or whatever
Right.
it is. But I want to make that decision from a place of peace and not from a place of panic or stress or this hard thing happened. And so therefore I'm choosing to get out of business. And I want to choose it from a place of, I've pre-decided that this is the time where God has me stopping.
Yeah. So I love that you're bringing that up because I'm giving a talk this week it depends upon listener whenever you listen to this episode, whether that's live or pre, whatever. Is one of the things that I'm actually talking about is what are you going to do with yourself long after the business is gone? Because it's
Yeah.
more focused on the inner work, which now brings me back to the original thing that the original line of thinking I was going to go mindset versus skill set. What's the balance? What do you feel like you deal with in helping people with marketing, video marketing? Is it more mindset or more in skill set? Is it a balance of the both? Like, where are you finding
Yeah.
some of the most challenging parts?
I honestly think it's both. And I will tell you, like in the years where I was just helping people get on camera, just with logistical, what to say, where to film it, what to wear, I even put out content at one time that was a selling a content calendar, because I was like, oh, if people just knew what to make videos about, then they could totally do it. Turns out you all know where the record button is. There's so many reasons you don't get on camera. Okay. And so it was when I really started learning and seeing how could I help people, where it was really a mindset block of them
Mm.
getting on camera. That's where I think the most powerful work has been within my business, because now I'll tell you, a lot of my clients, even when they come to me for how do I stand and what do I say and what do I wear, behind that is actually a mindset. And when we can shift what they're working on mentally, we actually can change what they look like on camera. It's really actually amazing to see.
Yeah, I love that. I absolutely love that. And I appreciate you bringing up that it's more mindset because I think there's
Yeah.
sometimes an overemphasis on hard skills, the
Yeah.
actual doing of the thing versus who you are in the thing. And to the listener, let's take a pause for a second and say, if you're somebody who's dealing with some really deep challenges of getting on camera, doing things like this, if you're watching on YouTube, you see this. We're on camera. If you're listening, you can go over to the YouTube www.leadwithjim.live and watch this. To you, the listener, mindset's a lot of stuff. So working with Anita, and we're going to give you her links in a minute, is going to be a great addition to pushing your business out to a further thing, because it is business marketing, video marketing is the thing, and it's not going away. It's only going to increase. Out of like intense curiosity, getting back into the conversation, intense curiosity,
Sure.
we kind of glassed this over. Okay,
Mhm.
as a video creator myself, you casually are like, oh yeah, I made 1,000 videos in a year. So can you talk about that? Because I'm intensely curious about that now. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Yeah.
You would have to do almost 3 to 4 videos a day to do that in a
Yeah.
year. But so
I
let me
know.
hear about this. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So please know that I am not one of those people who's naturally gifted at being wonderful on video. So a lot of the lessons I now teach people are lessons I had to learn, because for the first couple years in my business, I was afraid to post a selfie. Okay. So I was not showing up on the camera. I just was like, I will be the person behind the business. I'm naturally an introvert. No, I'll know all the fun facts for you, but I do not want to be out front. Okay. And really, it got to a place where I had enough skills and I started to know how to position my business a little bit. But a lot of my clients were coming from being in Facebook groups and trying to like comment on things people posted saying I could help them. And there comes a place where you just don't have time for that. You have enough For me, I like didn't have time to sit at my computer and do that. I started realizing, oh, like I actually have to do the thing for myself that I teach people to do, which is so much harder, guys, so much harder. I can come up with what you're going to say all day, but for me, it's tough. All right. And so I just want to validate that is the case. So my first YouTube video that I posted, I leave it up on my channel so you guys can go watch and laugh and see how bad it was. I filmed it in the park. Okay. I filmed it in the park and the birds are chirping so loud that I'm like yelling over the birds. And what you can't see as I'm talking to you about a content calendar in that video is that my then toddler is like running back and forth and my eyes are like watching him. Okay. And I'm trying to tell you how I can like help grow your business. If I can make money posting videos like that, I promise you can make money. Okay. And it really just was me making videos and then looking at the videos and asking me, doing the same thing I do with my clients. How could I make this better? How can I make this
Right.
better? Remember also 2019 is the time where short form video came out. So I made a ton of TikTok videos, posted a lot of content, long form on YouTube. I did tons of videos at this time because I'm getting visible and people are noticing. I'm being invited to submit videos into people's courses, programs, be on their podcast, do interviews. So there were so many opportunities to be on video. But what I found is like I really needed to go first and be out there and put myself out there. And it felt absolutely terrifying. But when I did that, people were able to see who I was. And no longer was I just like another comment and a list of a lot of comments. I now was somebody who was invited to speak on people's stages, be part of their programs, getting opportunities to coach within their programs. And then now, as I've continued to grow just outside of into other things that are outside of this online business world, but more like corporate and other things, really being able to show up for my own content has given me a voice and a confidence to be able to talk about what I do faster than anything else, honestly.
So then this brings up another question. Okay, you're having all these things, and you again, you said it, but I think it was like almost like you just said as, oh yeah, nonchalantly, you're like, I'm an introvert. And it was just like glassed over a little bit. I am not an introvert, so I do not have that particular side of the house.
Yeah.
What would you say to the introverts? Because you're an introvert who is now on massively, you did 1,000 of your own videos in a year. And since then, so that was like 2020, 21, 22. Now we're 4 years, 5 years later. And I'm sure you've doubled that at least.
Yeah.
What would you say to the introvert who is, I want to do what you're doing, but they're
Sure.
too afraid?
Yeah. Okay, a couple of things. For the introvert who's at least willing to try, I would say that you are going to tell yourself that your first video is like your first pancake. Okay. And we're just going to make 100 videos as fast as possible. I don't care how terrible they are. But what's going to happen in those 100 videos is you're going to learn how to talk about yourself without all the filler words, without all the extra, with all the things that like detract from your video being good. And there's something that like happens in the just doing. Okay, so just know that even if it feels terrible, just doing, just like when you first learned to ride a bike, right? We all skinned our knees at some point riding the bike. We all fell. All right, but you just choose to do it. For somebody who's not willing to press record at all, what I would encourage you to do is to work on writing the content first of what you're willing to say about your business and start with practicing with just recording audio. And then I would find good friends that you're willing to Marco Polo video chat with or FaceTime with so that you can get used to seeing yourself on camera. Because a lot of the reasons people aren't willing to get on camera have to do with them feeling uncomfortable with how their face looks or their voice sounds on camera. But there's actually like science behind why that doesn't look normal to you and why that doesn't sound normal to you. It's because it's not. And so when you can normalize that, it becomes much easier. So yeah, those would be some of the things I'd share.
So you guys, to the audience, you've heard that. If you're an introvert, here is an opportunity for you to get out there and do the thing that you're called to do. With that being all said, as we start to land this episode, this is the part of the episode where I asked about the wisdom bomb. And to you, the audience who listened, who's been here with me for a while, this is part where we get the portable truth. You know, this is something, a quick statement that people can take in and just apply to their lives today. What would be the hashtag wisdom bomb you would give?
Yeah, I think this is tough because we covered a lot. But what I want you to know is that small steps can really grow your business. A lot of times, especially if you're under six figures, you're thinking, I need some like magic bullet to take me from here to there. And I'm going to tell you there's no magic bullet. Okay. It's just small steps forward, taking the next best step. That's the thing that's going to actually move you forward in your business.
Love that. So with that being all said, again, how do we find you? How do we get to connect with Anita?
Sure. I'm FDS Creatives on every single platform. So you can absolutely find me there.
So to you, the listener, we are going to put everything in the show notes too. So you can
Sure.
click it, link it, get out there and connect. And I would highly recommend that you connect, especially if you want to do video. With all that, thanks for being on the show. This was a great conversation and I really appreciate you.
Thank you so much for having me. Truly, it has been wonderful.
So to you, the listener, again, make sure whatever your platform you're listening to, Apple, iRadio, YouTube, make sure you just subscribe on YouTube, hit the follow on the podcast. Sometimes you get those messed up in reverse because you're doing this. Oh, wait, hold on. Stop, flip it, reverse. You know what to do on the platform you're on. And so all of that, we are Grace in the Grind, and we're here to tell the story behind the story. And we'll be seeing you on a next episode.
This has been Grace in the Grind. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. And we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, find us on social media at Lead with Jem. Take care of yourself. And we'll see you next time on Grace in the Grind.